Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are strapping in for a high-speed, scenario-driven masterclass.
Mhm.
It's focused entirely on the Adobe Real-Time Customer Data Platform, or, RT-CDP.
Right.
Our listeners shared a whole stack of material that's centered around the AD0-E602 professional exam framework. So our mission today isn't about memorizing trivia.
Definitely not.
It's about giving you a sharp, practical shortcut. We want to really master the workflows, understand the compliance choke points, and most importantly, just grasp the business value this platform can deliver.
And that framing is, I think, essential. We're approaching this strictly from the perspective of a business practitioner.
Okay, so not the super technical side.
Exactly. It means we're focusing less on the technical configuration minutia and more on the implications of the choices you make inside the CDP.
So the why behind the what.
Precisely. The material is heavy on real-world scenarios that are really designed to test how you translate business goals into platform action.
And the weighting of the material, I think it tells us exactly where to focus our energy. What's a breakdown look like?
Yeah, it's not evenly distributed, which is actually pretty helpful.
Good.
The two biggest chunks are all about action and value. So segment creation and activation is 32% of the focus. That's the doing part.
Right.
And right behind it, business analysis at 30%. That's the proving it was worth it part.
The so what?
Exactly. Then you have privacy and data governance at 20%. And then the technical bedrock, schemas and profiles, comes in at 18%.
That structure makes perfect sense. I mean, you can't build a house until you pour the foundation. So let's start where the platform starts. The data structure. Schemas and profiles. This is domain 4.
Yep.
So we're talking about XDM, the experience data model. What is the absolute first order of business for a practitioner here?
The first job is establishing a unified language and critically defining identity.
Identity, okay.
XDM schemas, they require you to design clear, reusable field groups. But the most important mandate is always configuring identity. You have to use these specific descriptors like xdm.descriptorIdentity to flag fields.
Like email or CRM ID?
Exactly. Email, CRM ID, phone number, these become the keys that anchor a profile. If you don't configure a primary identity, I mean, the data might be there, but you won't be able to activate it effectively. It'll just sit there.
So that primary identity is the hook that turns all this raw data into a person, a recognizable customer.
Right.
And here's where it gets really interesting for me. Dynamic profile stitching. Because the modern customer, they don't start identified, right? They browse first.
They're anonymous.
So how does the RT-CDP handle someone who is like a ghost 1 minute and a known customer the next?
Well, that capability is really the core genius of the RT-CDP. We call it dynamic profile stitching.
Okay.
So imagine someone spent an hour browsing shoes, reading articles, clicking around. They're generating all this behavioral data under an anonymous user ID.
Right, like a cookie ID or something.
Exactly. But the moment that user logs in or, puts their email in for a newsletter, boom, the platform recognizes that primary identity.
And then what happens?
The RT-CDP doesn't just throw away that anonymous history. It dynamically merges the ghost profile's historical fragments with the newly identified permanent profile.
Wait. So you're saying it literally takes that ghost profile that just spent an hour browsing and gives all that behavioral history to a real customer ID the second they type their email in?
That's it. It's incredibly powerful for personalization.
Wow.
All incoming data, whether it's behavioral or from a CRM, it results in these profile fragments.
Yeah.
And those fragments are constantly being reconciled, which of course leads us to the critical next step, conflict resolution. What happens when you have conflicting data?
That's a super common issue. Like say the customer has an old billing address in the CRM, but they just updated their shipping address in the loyalty app. Now the CDP has two competing facts.
So you manage that by defining two core merge rules in your merge policy. The first one is pretty straightforward, timestamp ordered.
Latest one wins.
The latest record. Yep. Regardless of where it came from, it wins the conflict. Simple.
Simple enough. But what if I'm in, say, a regulated industry, like a bank or healthcare? Isn't the second rule, data set precedence, basically mandatory?
You've just hit on the key practitioner insight.
Because I can't let a quick update from some marketing app override the verified address I have in my core CRM system.
That's exactly it. For critical systems, dataset precedence is non-negotiable. It lets you designate certain datasets like your core CRM or a billing system as having higher authority.
So it's like a hierarchy of trust.
It is. If data conflicts, The information from the higher precedence dataset always wins, even if the other data is chronologically newer.
So the dataset precedence rule is kind of like the internal legal doc that decides which source of truth wins. And I guess all of this is underpinned by the union schema to make sure all the pieces can live together.
Exactly right. The union schema is the glue. It ensures every piece of data that's profile-enabled shares a base class, which lets the platform assemble that rich 360-degree view without any confusion.
Okay, so the foundation is poured, profiles are dynamically stitching together. Let's move to the action layer. Segment creation and activation, domain 1.
The fun part.
This is where we monetize that unified profile, and it feels like speed is the name of the game here. There are 3 methods of segmentation, and it's all about latency.
Latency is the critical distinction. If you choose the wrong latency model, you're either wasting resources or, worse, missing an opportunity.
Okay, so let's start with the slowest one, which is probably fine for a lot of needs. Batch.
Batch segmentation evaluates profiles every 24 hours. So the latency is 24 hours. This is ideal for large, stable, or, slow-changing audiences.
Give me an example.
Think about segments like all customers who have spent over $5,000 this year, or maybe customers who haven't bought anything in 18 months. There's no real urgency for those to be updated every second.
Makes sense. Okay, next up is the sweet spot for a lot of campaigns, I imagine. Streaming.
Streaming gives you near real-time reaction. Segments qualify as new profile or event data hits the platform. So if a user just abandoned a cart or their loyalty status just ticked up,
They're in the segment.
they're in the segment within, say, 30 to 60 seconds. It's perfect for that time-sensitive retargeting or triggering a quick service email.
And then we have the speed demon, the true real-time choice, Edge.
Edge is instantaneous. It operates directly on the edge, so in the browser or on the mobile device itself.
So it's not waiting for a round trip to the CDP.
No round trip. It's used exclusively for immediate web personalization, on-site A/B testing, or serving the right content banner the instant a user loads a page. You would never use Edge for a 24-hour batch segment.
Right, the resource cost would be insane.
Way too high.
So the practitioner's challenge is really matching the segment's shelf life to the latency model.
Well, you've got it. So once you've defined your segments using attributes, events, or sequences of events.
Like, they visited page X, then purchase Y.
Right, you have to get them out.
Yeah.
And that's the activation workflow.
So we're exporting these audiences to destinations like Google, Facebook, S3, TikTok. What's the single most critical step when you're pushing an audience to a third-party partner?
It's got to be identity mapping. Third-party destinations, especially ad networks, they can't handle raw, identified data.
Right.
You have to map the target identities using standard required namespaces like email, SHA-256 for hashing,
Sure.
or phone number. For Facebook, for example, you're usually mapping a hashed email address so they can recognize the user securely and match them.
And you have to qualify that identity first, right?
Yeah.
Make sure you actually have consent to share it, even if it's hashed.
Absolutely.
And the best practice here, which I can't stress enough, is just testing.
Oh, always.
Yeah.
Confirm the destination setup and then test with a small audience first.
Yeah.
That lets you monitor error rates, check delivery confirmations before you unleash a segment with millions of profiles.
Yeah.
Trust, but verify.
Okay, so we've built the audience, we've activated it. Now we need to bring in the safety mechanism, privacy and data governance.
Yeah.
Domain 3. This is where we talk about DULE.
Right. DUL data usage labeling and enforcement. It's basically the regulatory safety net.
Okay.
It's what prevents accidental compliance breaches during activation.
Right.
And it works in 3 distinct phases.
Okay, phase 1 is labeling.
Labeling is just tagging. You label sensitive fields, PII, email, phone number, with privacy labels that describe what the data is. Then phase 2 is defining the marketing actions.
So that's where you create the rules.
That's where you create explicit restrictions on what those labeled fields can be used for. For instance, you could create an action that says, no email targeting allowed for this loyalty segment, or simply no ad targeting.
And the third piece is probably the most critical for career safety enforcement.
Enforcement is the automated compliance gate. The moment you click that activation button, platform policies check the segment logic and all the fields being exported.
And if there's a problem?
If a violation is detected, say you tried to send an email address that you labeled as no ad targeting to a social media destination, the DULE policy will step in and just block the export.
So the platform is literally saying, nope, you're not sending sensitive data that a user opted out of to a third-party ad network today. Try again.
Exactly. It ensures that a simple human error doesn't turn into a catastrophic fine.
Wow.
And this connects directly to consent management. DULE policies are used to filter segments for profiles that have opted out. They're just automatically excluded.
Which is huge for GDPR and CCPA.
It is. And the practitioner needs to be ready to design and execute specific deletion workflows for those right-to-be-forgotten requests.
And we also have to remember time to live, or TTL, for the pseudonymous data, right? For data hygiene.
Correct. Data shouldn't live forever, especially behavioral data that's not tied to an identified user. TTL expiry makes sure that data is automatically cleaned up after a set time. It's not just good hygiene, it's often a compliance requirement.
So the best practice seems obvious. Label your data before you ingest it.
Please, don't try to retrofit compliance later.
And I guess don't forget the human element. You have to talk to your data stewards, run audits.
Absolutely. Consult them for new policies and run periodic audits on the enforcement screens to make sure the rules you think are working are actually working.
Okay. We've covered the entire technical workflow, from structure to governance. Now let's talk about the payoff. Business analysis and value. Domain 2. This feels like it's all about translating features into revenue.
This is where we separate the button pusher from the strategist.
I like that.
The first job is always gathering requirements. And that means thorough journey mapping, clearly defining the segments you need, specifying the exact activation triggers, and identifying the channels. You're the translator.
You're translating a vague marketing ask like, we need to improve loyalty,
Right.
into a concrete platform action. Create a streaming segment of users whose loyalty status has degraded in the last 72 hours and trigger a direct email.
Precisely. And those requirements have to be documented with use cases and really clear acceptance criteria. If your VP asks for a segment of people who bought last month, your acceptance criterion should be successful creation of a batch segment and triggering an email within 24 hours. Concrete actions, clear measures.
Okay, let's dive into measuring success with KPIs. It's so easy to create beautiful dashboards that are totally useless.
Oh, yeah.
So we need to differentiate the 3 levels of KPIs. Let's start at the bottom with descriptive metrics.
Descriptive metrics are purely about activity and volume. They describe the operational output. So the number of segments you created, the number of campaigns you launched, total users onboarded. They just tell you what you did.
Okay, so moving up the level, we measure efficiency and execution with tactical metrics.
Tactical metrics link directly to campaign health, campaign open rates, click-through rates, conversion rates for that campaign, or even efficiency metrics like we reduced data prep time. They measure how well you did the task.
But the real reason we invested in this tech in the first place is the top tier, strategic metrics.
This is the highest level, the ROI tier. Strategic metrics are things like customer lifetime value, CLV, overall retention rates, reduced churn, and of course, return on investment for the whole CDP.
Right.
Practitioners have to make sure their dashboards always link those tactical and descriptive metrics back up to these strategic outcomes. If you reduce churn by 5%, that directly translates to increased CLV, which is the ROI metric that really matters.
And to get that high-level view, you need a perfect understanding of the customer journey, which comes down to event time ordering and attribution.
Absolutely. For behavioral audiences, you have to use event time ordering to accurately map the sequence of the journey. And you have to understand multi-touch attribution to figure out which events actually led to the conversion.
So you can give credit where credit is due.
So you can report ROI accurately and show that the CDP-fueled initiatives are the ones driving the value.
We've hit all 4 core pillars: the foundation of schemas and identity merging, the action of segmentation matching latency to the use case,
Yep.
the safety of governance with DULE enforcement, and the payoff of analysis, connecting tactical efforts to strategic KPIs like CLV and ROI.
That was a huge deep dive. And really the only way to lock this in is to apply it. Maybe walk yourself through a few quick fire scenarios.
Okay, good idea. So for you listening, let's go back to conflict resolution. How would you handle merging customer data from a, let's say, unreliable loyalty app and a verified CRM if they had conflicting addresses? You should immediately be thinking about dataset precedence.
Here's another one. You just launched a new real-time cart abandonment campaign. Which level of KPI is the best leading indicator that your activation is working? It's not going to be ROI, that's way too slow. It's going to be a tactical metric like conversion rate from that triggered email.
And a final one, the compliance check. If a DULE policy restricts using fields labeled no ad targeting in Facebook, what happens the second you hit activate, and why does that feature save your job?
If this is new to you, the best next step is getting access to an Adobe Experience Platform sandbox. Nothing replaces hands-on practice.
Absolutely.
And don't underestimate the teach-back method. Just explaining a tough flow like dynamic profile stitching or the 3 stages of DOLE out loud. It forces your brain to structure the information logically.
It really locks the knowledge in. It turns memorization into real understanding.
Ultimately, becoming an RT-CDP business practitioner is about unlocking some serious career potential by bridging that gap between data and business outcomes. Always focus on the real strategic impact, maximizing CLV, calculating ROI, not just the software flow. This deep dive has armed you with the framework. The constant learning really begins now.